Hey everybody, Jason Grunberg, CMO here at Forder. Very excited to be at the Converse store in Boston, speaking to my friend Chinmay from EG America. Before we talk about everything that's going on in the world when it comes to agents and innovation and whatnot, I'd love to learn more about you. Tell us about your role at EG Americas and how you got there.
Jason, first up, thank you for having me. Such a beautiful day here in Boston and a really cool location here. I'm Chinmay Gupta. I have the pleasure of leading the Technology Innovation Org at EG. We specifically focus on driving business innovation and digital transformation, both internally and for our customers as well.
So what does digital transformation mean for you right now? It doesn't have to be specific to EG, right? But more broadly speaking, like what is the transformation that is really top of mind for most organizations?
We are hearing enough about AI, agentic AI specifically. So I think what's top of my mind right now is to see how agentic AI evolves from a futuristic concept to a more foundational concept or element which is fundamentally changing how businesses do core business operations and customers shop. And again, there are opportunities both sides to leverage agentic AI and transform the way we do commerce.
Yeah. So I feel like, and I've been working with merchants and commerce organizations for the better part of 20 years. And one of the things that I know to be true is every customer matters, especially because so few customers are in that loyal customer base, right? But they generate so much revenue. Like they're the lion's share of revenue that gets generated. As you think about agents in this future, what are some things that you're thinking about? Like what's the intersection between agents and loyalty?
So great question, Jason. So I think singularly, the difference between loyalty and agents is today, the notion of loyalty means I, as a user, I'm making a transaction on a commerce platform like a website or a mobile app. But in the agentic world, as a user, I'm giving that ownership or empowering an agent to transact on my behalf, which means that the notion of both authenticity of a transaction and who's authorizing it becomes very, very important. And I think that's where partners like Forder help the merchants out.
I appreciate that. And, every time I think about an evolution or a pivot in technology and as transformation itself transforms, I'm always like stuck in between like, how do I explain this to my parents versus how do I think my child or children are going to understand this? And for me, it's like I see how my 7-year-old engages with the world where she's trying to touch and tap and swipe every screen, and she doesn't understand when that doesn't work. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, my parents are trying to still figure out like how to plug something in. And so this idea of agents, and you think about the multi-generational effect of it, like what is that for you and where does that come in? What role does that play when you think about transformation? Like who are you transforming for?
Again, great question. So I think my singular focus right now is to transform the repetitive, high impact business operation. So if we think about, let's say in generalities, if we focus on customer service functions, today, in order to mine and find the insights across customer service operations, agents can do much fantastic job than a humans can. Not because they're special, because they are trained at finding anomalies across the ecosystem. A couple of weeks ago, I was in India and was fascinated to see in the world of Q-commerce, some of the organizations are doing 60 to 70% of their customer service operations just purely using agentic commerce. So I would say for executives, first up focus should be to tap into identifying the repetitive business problems, which are low-hanging fruits, not moonshots, and then apply agentic thinking, or I should say, transformative thinking towards, saving hours or saving money for the company, which can be translated to, providing extra value to the customers.
I think it's an exciting part of this transformation in that we're all consumers, right? Like, yes, we have our day job, but like we even consume during that time frame.
Right.
But agents are evolving how all of us do work, how all of us engage with the world at large. And so my hope is that this becomes easier for transformation inside of organizations, right? Because we ourselves are starting to use these tools and understand that there is that idea of like, what is that repetitive task? And so it changes that perspective. Are you finding in such a global organization like EG that that type of thinking is already taking root and helping you in your job of transformation?
Look, absolutely. I think there are two things to be said about AI as a tool and AI as, I would also say, a way to think about operations. So when I look at AI as a tool, there's case to be made that any function we're doing, right, which is repetitive by nature, some kind of tool can add in some value, shelve off some seconds. But I think that's a lower hanging fruit. What we're focused on is identifying whether we can deploy systems which can learn these anomaly patterns, adapt, and more importantly, act at scale on behalf of us. And I think if you do that over a period of time in a repetitive fashion, you really get to see impact at scale, not just in the US, but globally as well.
So yeah, the phrase like these anomaly patterns, right? When I look at Forder and the opportunity that we have as an organization with our partners is really understanding, so what are those emerging trends? What are those anomalies when it comes to fraud and payments optimization? What do you see the role that we are going to have in this future as being?
Absolutely. So I think, look, I think partners like Forder specialize, in my viewpoint, in two areas. One is identity management, and the next is fraud detection and mitigation. So I think with identity, like you had mentioned earlier, whether a user is transacting or an agent is transacting, the notion of identity becomes so much more important. Today, synthetic identities can be bought for a dime by bad actors. And that's where you guys come in, where you see the entire ecosystem of identities out in the e-commerce world. So for a partner like Forder, it's easier to detect anomalies and act on it. However, the asterisk there is we have to be careful with false positive. Too many false positives would frustrate the users and cause them to not transact as often, which means loss for business and lost customer credibility. On the other side, which is fraud detection, I think that's where machine learning has done some phenomenal stuff there. However, now we have to keep in mind that bad actors are equally sophisticated, if not more. They do not have the bounds of budget. They do not have the regulatory constraints that we have in the market, which inherently means they move very, very fast. So I think a partner which has good pulse on both identity, validation, detection, and fraud mitigation is truly a company that any retailer should partner with. And I would say to wrap us up there, not so long ago, identity and fraud detection were defensive mechanisms that retailers had to adopt. But I think now they're actually enablers that company needs to innovate very fast, but at the same time, ensure that bad actors are kept in check.
Yeah, and this really is about looking at through that opportunity lens, right? And understanding that even if today or in the next 12 months, it's a small percentage of e-commerce transactions that are completed by agents, you need to be ready to embrace that now in order to be on that leading edge of being able to allow your customers to operate the way they want to operate. Because if those are some of your most loyal customers, that's where it's important to be meeting their needs and not being in a position where you're having them go somewhere else because they're offering a different experience. And so I think it is that big opportunity in front of us.
I couldn't agree more. And I would say, Jason, like, it's very hard for retailers to earn customers' trust. And once as a user, I'm offloading my identity to an agent to transact on my behalf, it's equally important, if not more, for an e-commerce player to ensure that that trust, that promise is not broken. And which is where that extra level of attention to detail around core business processes, especially edge-facing processes, which are customer-facing, is so much more important.
I totally agree. Thank you so much for the chat today. It's great seeing you as always, and we'll talk soon.
I was glad to be here. Thank you.